I used to believe that no matter how difficult life became, family would always be the one place where love outweighed everything else. I believed that because my mother raised me to believe it. She used to say, "People can lose jobs, homes, even dreams, but if you have your family, you'll never truly be alone." I repeated those words to myself for 32 years. Then, on a rainy Tuesday morning, I found a letter hidden inside my late grandmother's old sewing machine, and in less than 10 minutes, everything I thought I knew about my family fell apart. The letter wasn't addressed to me. It wasn't even opened. Someone had hidden it there decades ago, hoping no one would ever find it. My name wasn't anywhere on the envelope, but inside was a confession that explained why my grandmother cried every Christmas, why my uncle hated my mother for reasons no one understood, and why my father spent the last 15 years pretending that one room in our family home didn't even exist. By the time I finished reading it, my hands were shaking so badly that I dropped every photograph I'd been sorting. I realized two things at once. First, someone in my family had stolen an entire life. Second, I had spent years protecting the very people who destroyed it. My name is Emily Carter, and until that day, I thought loyalty was the strongest thing a family could have. I was wrong. Secrets are stronger, especially the ones buried long enough to grow roots. Growing up in Cedar Grove, a quiet town just outside Portland, Oregon, our family looked perfect from the outside. My dad, Richard, owned a successful construction company. My mom, Laura, taught third grade at the local elementary school. My older brother, Mason, was everyone's favorite. He played football, graduated with honors, and eventually joined my dad's business. Then there was me, the quiet daughter, the one who preferred books over parties and stayed behind after family dinners to help Grandma Evelyn wash dishes. Grandma always smiled at me differently than she smiled at everyone else. Not because she loved me more, because every time she looked at me, there was sadness hiding behind her eyes. When I was little, I thought she was simply getting older. Now I know she was carrying something much heavier than age. When I turned 12, she gave me an old silver necklace. Nothing expensive, just a tiny key hanging from a delicate chain. "Keep this safe," she whispered. "What does it open?" She smiled. "Someday you'll know." For years I forgot about it. It stayed inside my jewelry box while life kept moving. College, a marketing job in Seattle, a small apartment, a broken engagement that taught me heartbreak could arrive wearing a diamond ring. Through everything, I came home every Thanksgiving and Christmas. No matter how busy life became, family came first, or so I believed. Then Grandma Evelyn passed away peacefully at 87. The funeral brought everyone together. My Uncle Daniel flew in from Arizona. My Aunt Sharon cried louder than anyone. My father barely spoke. After the service, everyone gathered at Grandma's old Victorian house to discuss selling it. I didn't want to. That house held every happy childhood memory I had. The smell of cinnamon rolls, summer afternoons on the porch, Grandma humming while she sewed quilts. But my father insisted, "It's just a building, Emily. It's our history. It's expensive history." Within 3 days, everyone agreed to clean the house before putting it on the market. I volunteered to organize Grandma's sewing room. No one else wanted to. "It's full of junk," Mason laughed. "It's full of memories," I answered. He rolled his eyes. "You always get sentimental." Maybe I did, but someone had to care. The sewing room looked exactly the way Grandma had left it. Neatly folded fabric, glass jars filled with colorful buttons, thread arranged by color, the old Singer sewing machine sitting beside the window. Dust floated through the afternoon sunlight, like tiny ghosts. I spent hours carefully boxing everything. Every object carried a memory. A baby blanket she'd made for me, a Halloween costume she'd sewn by hand, the quilt she started after Grandpa died but never finished. Late in the afternoon, I tried moving the sewing machine. It wouldn't budge. I crouched down and noticed something strange. The bottom panel looked loose. Curious, I reached underneath. There was a tiny keyhole. My heart skipped. A keyhole. Without thinking, I touched the necklace I still wore around my neck. The tiny silver key. I had worn it for years simply because it reminded me of Grandma. I'd completely forgotten she'd once said it opened something. My fingers trembled as I slipped the necklace off. The key fit perfectly. With a soft click, a hidden compartment opened beneath the machine. Inside sat a small wooden box wrapped in faded blue cloth. Nothing else. No jewelry. No money. Just one box. I carried it to the table. For a long moment, I simply stared at it. Something told me this wasn't meant for everyone. Something told me Grandma had trusted me. Slowly, I lifted the lid. Inside were dozens of yellowed photographs tied together with ribbon, several handwritten journals, a birth certificate, and one sealed envelope. Across the front, written in Grandma's unmistakable handwriting, were 6 words: "Only if the truth matters most." My stomach tightened. I glanced toward the hallway. The house was silent. Everyone else had gone home for dinner. Only the old clock downstairs echoed through the empty rooms. Tick, tick, tick. I carefully opened the envelope. The letter inside was dated the 18th of November, 1988. More than 37 years earlier. The handwriting was shaky. Every line looked as though it had been written through tears. If you are reading this, then I was too afraid to tell you while I was alive. I swallowed hard. Our family was built on a lie. My pulse quickened. I allowed fear to silence me. And because of that, an innocent person lost everything that should have belonged to her. I frowned. Who? Richard believes he protected this family. My father's name. He tells himself he did what was necessary. I couldn't breathe. But the truth is that he stole far more than money. My hands started shaking. He stole a daughter's identity. I read the sentence 3 more times. A daughter's identity? What did that even mean? Then I turned the page. A faded photograph slipped from between the sheets. I caught it before it hit the floor. The picture showed my father in his 20s, standing beside Grandma. Between them stood a little girl. She looked about 5 years old. Curly brown hair, bright green eyes. She was smiling. I had never seen her before. Yet something about her face felt strangely familiar. I turned the photograph over. Written on the back were 6 words that made the room feel suddenly smaller. Richard, bring my daughter home. My father had never mentioned another child. Never. Not once. And as thunder rolled outside, rattling the old windows, I realized that the letter had only just begun.